I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. I'd like to welcome our new member of the commission, Chris Miller. And actually, our second new member will be Brad Brown, which will be here at our next month's meeting. We are virtual and live both tonight. So if you would like to be part of this commission's meeting and participate, you can do so by calling 1-800-309-2350, and the conference number is 237-7193, and that should show up on your monitor also. Judy, would you lead us in the pledge to the flag, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the records reflect the members that are present here this evening. The commission members should have received the draft minutes of April 26, 2021. Is there any reviews for the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Delegates and action item. First item on the agenda, Carroll County 2020 Annual Planning Report, request for certification. Jim, you want to lead us into this before we?
Just a real quick summary. This is our annual routine. The county solicits input from all the municipalities, as well, of course, from their own planning staff on development around the county, any changes to ordinances that have to do with development. And we provide that information. The county compiles it all, and we're about to hear our section, I guess, maybe with some highlights of the county at large. So I'll turn things over to Mary, if that's okay.
Thanks, Jim. As Jim said, this is required by the state under the land use article, and it has to report all the planning and development activity for the previous calendar year. It describes the type, location, and stage of development that occurred during the previous year, and it is required to be consistent with the adopted plans of the jurisdiction and should implement the state planning visions. So, as Jim said, each year in January, our department requests the following from each town, and I'll just briefly go through what we received from Taneytown. On page 14, residential subdivisions, there were 3 that were completed or approved rather. In 2020, the Village at Meads Crossing, which was 70 lots on 27 acres. Meadowbrook Phase 6, 35 lots on 13 acres. Taneytown Crossing, 36 units on 4.8 acres. There were no commercial industrial site plans approved, no rezonings or annexations, no zoning text amendments, no new parks. There were 2 new roads and a bridge that can be found on page 21, O'Brien Avenue, the O'Brien Avenue Bridge, and Colbert Street. And regarding new plans or amendments to plans adopted, that's on pages 2 and 3, amendment to the water and sewer plan. So again, this information for the county and all the towns can be found on pages 1 through 23 of the report that we transmitted at the end of April. So the county also compiles the following for the entire county, and I will very briefly go through that, which is for each individual municipality as well. The number of residential dwelling units that can be found on pages 26 and 27, and that is compiled inside and outside the priority funding area, the municipal growth area, and the designated growth area. again, the number of non-residential units compiled in the same way. Preliminary plans approved, recorded lots. There's a map of that on page 32. Building permits issued. On page 34, you can see the map that shows residential and non-residential permits in Taneytown. Use and occupancy certifications are on page 35. For your town, there were 104 residential, 42 residential improvement, 3 commercial industrial, and 7 commercial industrial improvement. And then lastly, the county compiles the BLI, both residential and non-residential, which is the building land inventory, the potential lots remaining in each area. So in the Taneytown MGA, DGA, it is 1,511 potential lots of residential nature. And for non-residential, it is 331 potential acres in the Taneytown MGA. That can be found at the end of the report, near the end of the report on page 42. And that's really all I have. Again, this is what we bring to you every year, and it's based on the information that is sent to us by your staff. And we are here just requesting your certification so that we, the county, can certify it and send it on to the state.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion for the commission to certify this data that was provided. Is there a second? Okay. Dan, any call-ins? Guess not.
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And, okay.
My pamphlet stopped at page 21.
I apologize, that's probably when I was printing them, the copier ran out of paper and I had to refill it midway, so I thought I had full sets for everybody, but obviously one got shorted, I'm sorry.
Said look at page 21, it was blank. And
That's
I
as
had
far as
no
you
more.
went.
Okay, I can get you a hard copy if you want to look through all that. It's the same thing that was emailed out, though, if you would want to look at it that way, too.
Next agenda item, revised forestation plat. Dunkel Court, request for approval. Jim, you want to start us out before we get to Linda?
Sure. This is a bit of an interesting situation for us. The property owners here have applied to construct an in-ground swimming pool, and because there is a forest conservation easement on the property, the forest conservation specialist went out, took a look at the site, and found that there was a shed encroaching into the forest conservation easement. So that kind of put any new permits on hold until that issue was resolved. Rather than relocate the shed, the property owners have opted to modify the forest conservation area, reducing the size of it that's on the parcel, and to offset that reduced forest area, they are buying into a tree bank. A very small amount, very small area, but it was basically either that or move the shed. So the property owners that they would prefer to modify the conservation area. And with that, Linda Alexander from CLSI is on the line with us, and she can speak to the plan in front of you in a little more detail and maybe go into some more information about the process.
Okay, Linda, you're on.
Okay, so Jim is correct about the permit that was issued, or I'm sorry, not issued yet, but that was applied for. One of the main reasons that the homeowners have opted not to move the shed is this shed has been in place since about 2005, maybe 2006, somewhere in that range. There's a concrete base. You know, they have a myriad of reasons why, you know, shed becomes an issue because they'd have to shift it towards their driveway and some other things. So Jonathan Bowman from the county had already come out and had given them the option, because the forest conservation easement that exists on this particular lot of Forest Glen doesn't really have any trees growing in it, very few, as well as that entire easement that's on all of those lots has very little trees growing in it. The county no longer requires, under the current county regulations as far as forestry, they changed it over the years to not have this situation happen, where you have these smaller lots with these easements on them, and then you have this encroachment. This is an ongoing problem for the county right now with this. So they have allowed these homeowners that have these small encroachments to do a revised, or basically an amended record plat, show the area to be extinguished, come in with the amended plat, pay into a forestry bank for whatever little area is removed from the forest conservation, original requirement, put the plat on record and go. This particular one, of course, has the shed there, and it's pretty straightforward. I've done about 5 of these in the past year. That's how bad it's been getting with this forest conservation. This particular one needs 78 square feet released from the county, which at the current forest bank cost is about $30. They got to pay into a forest bank. But the county's requiring them to go through the whole amended plat process, and of course, obviously, it's in your jurisdiction, so we need to make sure that the city's okay with it, since we are processing it through the county as the county easement, but ultimately you guys are the ones who are signing the plat.
Okay, I'm with you so far on that.
Yeah.
And actually, we're looking at a spot roughly 8 by 10 feet. You
Well,
said less than 80 square feet.
78 square
Yeah,
feet.
the shed itself is about, I think the shed's like maybe 8 by 10. It's the back area of the shed encroaches into that easement about 1.5 feet.
Okay,
So that they wouldn't have to worry about this again, I think I'm showing an easement line that's maybe 1.5 feet off the back, maybe 2 feet off the back of where that shed is. So when we did our calculations, because we field located the shed, I think our plat shows like 78 square feet. We're just taking that line and moving it back.
okay,
Now, I will tell you, just as a little side note, the homeowners did have the ability. The county said if they chose to buy into a forest bank, they could remove the entire easement on their property, but then that's even more of an expense, for them than just doing the plat, So they don't want to necessarily do that. They just want to get the plat approved, and they want their pool permit, their in-ground pool permit. So.
and this is because of the shed and the fence, right?
It's the shed, and Jim and I were talking about this earlier. There has been other permits that have been issued over the years out there, like one for their above ground pool. But again, I'm not sure that 10 years ago, whether the county was really looking at some of this stuff quite as hard as what they are now. In this particular one, when they went into pool, the in-ground pool does not touch the easement. The only issue is the shed is in it right now.
Okay. And the easement only affects their property, right? Not the property next door to Wolf's property?
Is that the property that sits between them and Trevanian Road?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that particular property does not have the easement on it at all. No.
Okay. So I guess in my thinking here, what is the drawback, if any?
The county won't approve their building permit for the in-ground pool because of that encroachment of the shed into the forest conservation easement. So I guess essentially, they want the property to be in full compliance as far as any kind of easements and setbacks and things like that from the county perspective before they'll approve anything new.
Before they'll issue their building permit for the pool.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
No, we don't. it's a very modest area, and as you can kind of see in that Google image, what, like 2 trees behind the shed?
Right.
So,
If there's, yeah, trees of which I think they've planted themselves.
right.
So,
And this
so
is
they're
a
asking for
process
our
that-
request for approval, right?
Right, and the reason it's before you is because it is in the city limits, so we will have to have the mayor sign this, Chairman Parker will have to sign this, and either myself or they've got it labeled as Director of Planning and Public Works. The label's not quite right, but I'll sign it. But before I ask anybody else to sign it, we want it on record that the commission approved it. So it's kind of, right, so we do need a motion and a vote.
I'll make that motion to
Approve the, what do we approve?
revised forest conservation plat at Dunkel's Court.
Okay. And is there a second to that?
Seconded.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I did have one question. I know they probably haven't shown it yet, but is the pool, are they gonna have the same issue with the pool where it starts going into the forest easement?
The pool
No,
is
the
not
pool
going to
does
go
not
into the
go
easement.
at all.
Okay. And any comments? Dan, any comments from any outside callers? I see none.
No, sir.
All right, thank you. So all those in favor of the motion for approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed likewise. That was an aye for you, Ollie, right?
Ah, yeah.
Okay. Pass, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. It's kind of hard to hear you through the echo and then through the plexiglass.
It wasn't in my packet.
Plexiglass adds a whole nother,
Yeah, it's another.
Jim's like, dang it.
When you started, it's not in my packet.
Oh, okay.
It's nothing. Is it on here? It's not on here either.
Yes, it is. It's on the agenda. Okay, well, anyway, moving forward. Ordinance and agreement for review, there's none. Planning and zoning report. Jim, you want to go over your report, what we haven't covered yet?
In your packet was a preliminary
Not
plan
an old
for,
packet. I'm sorry. I'm looking at it.
Not, that's for the historic.
Your agenda, though. Your agenda has a different date on it.
right, okay. Ollie, I apologize, I obviously screwed something up with your packet.
It's fine.
I'll share with you. I'll share.
I was watching hers.
So maybe it's a month late in the mail. All right. Jim, continue with your report.
All right, so Meadowbrook 7 is in your packets. We had the concept plan for that just last month, I believe it was. So it's a 4-lot subdivision on Keenan Street. It's not formally going to be presented this month just because we didn't, the property was not posted with the required sign in time, so it'll be formally presented next month. But we have had the pre-submittal meeting with the county, and so the reviews can be ongoing, even though it hasn't been formally presented to you guys yet. So it shouldn't slow anything down there. It's a pretty straightforward plan, 4 lots, all fronting an existing street. Water and sewer service is going to be off of the existing mains that are already there in Keenan Street. So we're hoping this will be a pretty straightforward subdivision. It's just this area was many years ago zoned for commercial development, and I think the idea at the time was a small business area that could cater to the immediate community, which is not these days not really the most successful business model for something to be off the main drag and kind of embedded like that. So with the 2010 comprehensive plan, the area was switched over to residential, and the developer has opted to finally carve it up into lots and put some houses on it. So that'll be on there for next month. Work on Bollinger Park kind of stalled with some other projects for the city engineer. We've been focusing a lot on some projects out at the wastewater treatment plant. and some other sewer projects. So that's taken a lot of CDM Smith's energy and focus, but they should be able to get back to Bollinger Park fairly soon. So hopefully we will get that preliminary plan into the county for distribution to the various county agencies and for those reviews to begin in the next month or two. One of the projects that has taken CDM's time away from this has been the Roberts Mill Park planning. As many of you know, the walking trail around the pond is in rough shape, and portions of that trail are going to be relocated, and the pond bank is going to be stabilized in some areas because we've suffered a lot of erosion around the pond, and the walking path is crumbling into the pond in some areas. So that one took priority over Bollinger Park for us to get that taken care of. And of course, it's never as simple as just pulling up blacktop and moving it. It's got to be, well, a lot more goes into it. So hopefully we'll see Bollinger Park moving forward pretty soon. And that's about it. Just the pace of new home construction is chugging away. We've done, as of this writing, we've done a dozen homes this month. I think we've had 2 more come through since then. So things are really still moving full tilt ahead at Meads Crossing. And we did issue the first zoning certificates, and county issued the first building permits for the Ryan townhomes at Meads Crossing. So thus far in phase 1 and 1A, all the townhomes were built by Bob Ward New Homes. So it's going to be interesting to see how they compare. I've looked at the renderings that were before you guys many months ago for each of the units, and you can kind of put them side by side, and there's a lot of similarities, but some subtle differences that we'll see how subtle they are when they're all on, out there on the ground. So that's going to be kind of interesting to watch.
Do they have a model for the Ryan town?
I would expect they will, but from the permitting perspective for zoning certificates, it doesn't make any difference. But I can find out if they will, and let you guys know where it is. That's really about it for me, unless anybody has questions for me.
To the projects?
Okay. Really not a lot to update you on for those. Most of the stuff that's under the construction phase, Meadowbrook 5, I think, is winding down. I think the lots may all be sold at this point, so they're really trying to get that Section 6 to the point where they can start pulling permits. But they're going as quickly as they can out there. I just touched on the pace of construction out there, so they're still going very quickly out there. With regard to Meads Crossing, though, there is a question about, in phase 1 at Meads Avenue, there's a sidewalk that goes out towards Route 194, adjacent to, across the commercial property that's between the railroad tracks and Route 194. And the developer would like to not build the portion that goes beyond the driveway into the commercial property. The point being that right now it's a sidewalk to nowhere, that sort of thing. And with it being a 55-mile-an-hour road, apparently State Highway is not a fan of having sidewalks on 55-mile-an-hour roads. So we have a little more we'd like to look into that, but if I can maybe get a consensus as to any objections or thoughts on that matter, I can take that back to the developer, but we also want to touch base with the owner of the commercial property that sidewalk would be on. So there's some pros and cons to it. It is on the plan, but we don't have a concept for that commercial property yet. So, don't want to pull the rug out, so to speak, if the owner of that property is counting on that sidewalk to be built. But if he would just as soon not have it built because it might not dovetail in with his plans, that option as well. So I guess if anybody has any thoughts one way or the other, feel free to share them.
Well, my opinion is, like George was always telling us, we're not planning for today, we're planning for years to come. And with the Bowman Park across the street and all the residents that is on this, on which I guess would be the east side, they're gonna need a means to get across. So.
Yeah, but I don't know if we're expecting them to walk, are we, across a 55-mile-an-hour road?
I'm looking at down the road, 5, 10 years from now, that speed limit is gonna be lower. Just like it is going towards Frederick, just like it is on Banyan Road going out. Once you get out there, 30, 40 miles an hour. I just would hate to make a decision at this time not to, just because there's a lot of people there that's gonna wanna go to the park, and that's the reason we put a park there, to be used.
I think I'd rather wait till you talk. Their long-term plans are. That is definitely something that we can always add to plans. I mean, obviously, it's gonna go out to the road.
Well, it was reviewed, the plans was reviewed by State Highway. So the sidewalk was there when they reviewed it. And I don't recall any negative about the sidewalk from State Highway.
How did they plan a sidewalk over somebody else's property?
The property owner there was actually a signatory on the plats because they crossed his property with Meads Avenue.
Okay, okay.
So Meads LLC
time, he
property
had
actually
no
stops
comment
at the
about that
railroad,
part.
before the railroad tracks, right?
Put two. So at this time, I would rather not have a decision other than the consensus maybe.
We can certainly follow up with the property owner, and the developers offered to reach out there as well, so we can follow up there and come back next month with some more information.
George. Ollie, any comments?
Huh?
Any comments?
Listening
Russ?
tonight.
I agree with waiting, because
Okay.
with that sidewalk and going to the park and stuff like that, I mean, that's definitely an important consideration.
And again, this is not a formal action item for
Right,
tonight,
right.
just FYI, so.
Next time you go out that way, just stop there and take a look at it.
I guess I feel like
I
the
agree.
park is really a lot further up, so I'm not sure if that's where they would go across. I'm gonna have to look at it. I'm gonna have to look at it.
I mean, at this point, the park is just
Right
a
across.
field.
Idea. I know.
It's right across. I mean,
Right.
Okay.
just almost. Because you got Angel Road. And
The
then,
actual park is off of Springer, the waterway that runs through, so you don't have access from that side. They're either gonna have to come in through Springer or.
Or
So
back.
again, it's
And-
gonna be
yeah,
long-term.
right.
I'd have to look at it long-term.
Yeah, and it definitely is a long-term sort of thing. And, you know, whether there may eventually be a pedestrian crossing of Piney Creek, you know, we're able to engineer that within all the floodplain constraints and things. That idea certainly has been envisioned about the fact that the park is right across the street from 300-plus houses in Meads Crossing. It's, you know, of a direct way that people could walk across there. But as was pointed out also, it is right now a 55-mile-an-hour road. So there's, you know, a lot that would
I'll
need to
see
be
that
looked into.
change. To drop. So,
So, okay. All righty, well, moving on, the Taneytown Crossing project, they are hoping to get use and occupancy permits for 5 of the buildings, which would be 10 units for the semi-detached units early next month. So they're coming along. They've had their pitfalls with some things along the way, but all in all, the project's moving ahead nicely, and they're, you know, getting to that point where they have people waiting who were on a list waiting to move in. So looks like they should have no problem with occupancy there.
okay.
And that's That's about it. Again, I can field some questions if anybody has them.
Anyone? Okay. Did Jay have anything for us?
Nothing specific this month, no.
All right, then I guess we'll go to the county update. Caitlin?
Good evening.
Okay, good evening.
I just have quick updates for you. With the comprehensive rezoning, the staff has completed the updates to the residential district text and presented it to the planning commission. They held some work sessions last week, and then they will be going through and revising if needed. And the website again for that is carolrezoning.org. We have scheduled the May 27th discussion with the Board of County Commissioners for the 2021 Spring Amendment to the Carroll County Water and Sewer Master Plan. And it will be sent to MDE at the beginning of June. And as for our transportation master plan, we are currently holding a survey for all of our citizens in the county to provide feedback on transportation master plan, and that is available until June 1st. And that's all the updates I have.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any comments? Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to other business. We'll go around the room. Ollie, you have anything?
I got none.
Chris?
Nothing.
I put the date for the next meeting on there because our next meeting conflicts with the Maryland Municipal League convention. So,
On mine. I wrote it on mine. That's my writing, Jim. That's my writing. So we got to pick another date.
so the option would be to, fly solo. So that is an option, but I will not be here for the next meeting. So I could participate virtually.
So the other option would be June the 21st then, right?
That would be fine for me.
Does that work for you, Jim? Ollie? 21st? And we should have a full staff here then. Okay. Not hearing anything else, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you.